Can you give me a little bit more detail of how we got to where we are right now with Skanska on the legal aspects of everything?
Sure. So it's a little bit complicated because it goes into admiralty and maritime law, which is a branch of federal law that's kind of its own niche. But essentially what happened is that after people started filing claims in Escambia County, Skanska filed what's called a petition for exoneration or limitation of liability. What that means is that they took their claim under admiralty law to the federal court, and they asked the federal court to make one of two basic decisions. The first was either that everything was caused by an act of God, that being Hurricane Sally, and so that Skanska should not be held liable at all. The second was for a limitation of liability, and that gets a little bit complicated, but what it boils down to is saying that if there was negligence, was that negligence at a labor level or a managerial level? And if the negligence was at a labor level, for instance, somebody ties the wrong kind of knot and a barge got loose, then Skanska could potentially limit its damages to the value of the barges that were involved, meaning that if there were only $400,000 worth of barges involved, there could be $20 million worth of damage, but Skanska's cap on its liability would only be $400,000.
But that's not the case.
That's not what ended up happening. Judge Vinson in the first district court here decided that that was not the case and ruled that Skanska was not entitled to exoneration or limitation of liability, found that Skanska was in fact negligent. Skanska then appealed that decision to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, who handles the appeals for the federal courts in our area. And the federal court affirmed that decision and basically kept with Judge Vinson's ruling. That's what's now opened us up to the ability to file in state court, which is something I don't know that everybody completely understood at the time, was that by succeeding in federal court, that didn't end the case. That just gave us the ability to get to step one down at the trial court level in state court.
So what does that mean?
So what that means is that now the door is open for people in Escambia, Santa Rosa County to come in to either state courts here or in Santa Rosa, as the case may be, and actually proceed with their claims, because prior to that, until the federal court issues were decided, state court was enjoined. You couldn't go in and even pursue your claim. We have what I think was a very favorable aspect of the federal court ruling, was that implicit in what the district court decided and the 11th Circuit then confirmed was Skanska's negligence. There's still going to be argument about that in state court, but there's something called res judicata, which it's from the Latin, but basically means that that issue's already been decided by the federal court. So that holds in terms of the state court cases.
So basically what you're saying is that Skanska is negligent in this case.
So Skanska, it's interesting in a lot of their answers to the complaints that I've seen in state court, what they're doing is in state court complaints where there's an allegation that says Skanska was negligent, res judicata applies, they have been saying that that calls for a legal conclusion and that they don't have to respond to that, but that if it wasn't a legal conclusion, they deny it. So they're not agreeing, but that's what I view the case as saying.